Welcome to In Focus, where we break down the world's most pressing issues with experts' analysis and thoughts provoking many discussions. In today's episode, we address two critical topics: the US Supreme Court's landmark decision on TikTok and its ripple effects across technology and geopolitics and individual freedoms. And the second topic would be Donald Trump's controversial plans for large-scale immigration raids in Chicago. Let's dive in. The US Supreme Court's recent decision to enforce the divestitures of the TikTok's Chinese ownership has sent shock waves through the tech industry, sparking debates about national security, freedom of expression, and US-China relation. With over 170 million American users using the TikTok application, has become a social media giant. But at what cost? As we explore the Supreme Court's decision to enforce ByteDance divestiture of TikTok, it's crucial to understand the profound impact the move could have on the music industry. Since its debut in 2017, TikTok has evolved into a star-making machine, revolutionizing music promotion and discovery. The platform's unique algorithm has propelled emerging artists to stardom, turning obscure tracks into chart-topping hits. With the looming ban, artists and labels are scrambling to reassess the marketing strategy, facing the daunting task of replacing the tool that has been instrumental to their success. The potential shutdown threatens to create a lot of chaos quickly as the industry grapples with the loss of this powerful promotion platform. To navigate this intricate issue, we welcome Mr. Ahmed Al-Sakhawi, a cybersecurity and information technology expert. Good evening to you, sir, and welcome to Qnews. Now, this decision has been framed as a national security victory. Can you unpack the specific threats TikTok poses that led to such a decisive ruling?
In truth, the Supreme Court in the US to ban the TikTok application, which is a final ruling after 4 or 5 years of deliberation between the Congress and the US courts regarding stopping the TikTok application. I see it from a different point of view, because if there is an app used by 170 million Americans and 2/3 of teenagers for 80 minutes on average a day, which with the potential to get to know the interests and tendencies of the American people, and of course the long time use for TikTok reaches and amounts to 80 minutes a day. Also other apps such as Facebook, there has to be a ruling to control the situation. We know that TikTok has the growth of 7 US companies and contributes to the GDP with 7% and provides 250,000 jobs for American citizens. A lot of advertisement go through TikTok, and all of these beneficiaries now are going to be affected. In addition to the advertising company on US platforms, this ruling, given the findings that I have stated, is an economic decision more than political, because there has been concerns that the Chinese government would use TikTok to gain economic advantage over America through their different companies. And a similar decision was taken regarding the Huawei company, banning it from using some certain processors to issue certain issuance of the phone annually. The ByteDance company, which is the owning company for TikTok, was offered more than one buyout deals from TikTok, which is contradicting with all the US allegations regarding TikTok that this application might be harming US citizens or might be related to threatening the US national security, which is the #1 priority.
If I may ask you here, besides the economic file and this economic competition, many argue that this move is a signal of an increasingly hotline US stance on the Chinese tech companies. Now, what's your take on that, and how do you think that would reshape the US-China tech relations?
Of course, as we've stated, this current competition or war against the Chinese tech companies is a warning regarding the Chinese tech companies that if any company achieves unprecedented growth in such a small period of time, that poses a threat, and China is the #1 country in this regard. Of course, this step taken by the United States imposing restrictions on TikTok is a real step against the Chinese tech companies, and there will be even more restrictive steps taken further. And the question now if China will respond to these restrictions being imposed in their countries, or respond to the offers provided by Elon Musk, who's strongly supported by President-elect Trump, and he's a very strong supporter to the US economy. The question here, if we're going to witness during the upcoming period a very strong conflict and restrictions from China to face these challenges and restrictions being imposed by the US, the scene that we are seeing right now, or my expectations for the upcoming period, will witness a cool down period. The day after tomorrow, 21st January, there was a call for a cool down period.
Yes, let me here ask you about another big concern, because the ruling also raised concerns, as you spoke about threats. Now, the ruling also raises concerns about the freedom of expression. And do you think that banning the TikTok sets a dangerous precedent for government intervention in digital platforms?
drafting the law or the legislation to ban TikTok or banning it from all US platforms, and the warning issued by US companies such as Google and Apple from cooperating with TikTok through their stores, their electronic or digital stores, is now restricted, and the US people has the national security as a #1 priority, even a priority compared to freedom of expression. But the idea of some government taking advantage of being in China, pardon. The excuse of freedom of expression will be a tool or a mechanism to be used to restrict applications such as TikTok.
We're speaking here about a country. Definitely, we're speaking about the U.S., which has always protected the freedom of expression and openness to the world and principles and values. And this is why we're speaking about such an issue in the broader context. How can governments balance the need for national security at one hand with protecting innovation and open markets?
Here we talk about technology, which is an open source and support to some ideas and some features in different applications. So the idea of cooperation or the type of content or recreational or entertainment applications such as TikTok, which is an entertainment application. It's not political or for data collection or any of the things that we perceive as a national security threat. As we have stated, that there will be a wave of restrictions under different descriptions or different themes that will not be employed correctly. TikTok or social media applications should not be collecting data or user data. A lot of US companies and even most social media platforms that are from the US are involved in data and information leaks. So the idea of freedom of expression will be the issue always.
Yes.
To answer this question, I think in the upcoming period, and this is my own expectation, there will be a truce. The application will be sold. There will be a 30 to 60-day truce by Donald Trump.
Right.
The TikTok ban will start in the 20th of January.
That remains to be seen. Definitely, what would be the Trump's policies towards that. Mr. Ahmed Sakhawi, many thanks for your illuminating the complexities of this crucial issue. And we move forward. The TikTok case will undoubtedly shape the trajectory of global tech policy and US-China relations. Stay tuned as we shift gears to another polarizing topic: Donald Trump's plans for immigration enforcement.
We can fix every single problem our country faces and lead America, and indeed the whole world. USA! This is a magnificent victory for the American people. Promise Promises made, promises kept. We're going to keep our promises. Nothing will stop me from keeping my word to you, the people. We will make America safe, strong, prosperous, powerful, and free again.
With the slogan of "We'll make America safe." With his return to the Oval Office, Donald Trump is reigniting his hardline immigration agenda, beginning with Operation Safeguard, a large-scale immigration raid targeting sanctuary sites and in cities like Chicago. These sweeping actions, set to begin immediately after his inauguration, have sparked fierce protests and furious debates. Before we begin, I'd like to highlight a recent report from the New York Times that shed light on the magnitude of the planned immigration raids in Chicago. The article details how Operation Safeguard aims to target sanctuary cities like Chicago and parts of a broader strategy to deport millions of undocumented immigrants. It underscores the tensions between federal enforcement and local resistance, with Chicago officials reaffirming their commitment to protecting immigrant communities. This is not just a legal battle, but a deeply human one, affecting families, neighborhoods, and livelihoods. And to help us dissect the ramification of this bold move, we are joined by Mr. Mohammed Osman, an international relations expert. Good evening to you, Mr. Osman, and welcome to Qnews.
Thank you for having me, Mona.
Thank you so much. Now, Operation Safeguard has been described as the largest deportation efforts in U.S. history. What are the key objectives of?
Well, the issue of immigration and deportation in the United States has been a very contentious issue and a controversial issue since the 19th century. However, it gained substantially greater attention since the year 2000, in the midst of the era of globalization. And it's worth mentioning because everyone thinks that this is a Trump idea. Well, it isn't, because for the entirety of the 20th century, the United States in 100 years deported 2 million people, since 1890 until 1997. However, in the Bush administration, during the Bush years, 2 million immigrants were deported from the United States. In the Obama years, Obama, a Democrat and a liberal and a globalist by all means, 3.2 million people were deported. And in the Trump era, substantially less illegal immigrants were deported than the era of Obama. So it's really more of a political issue rather than a security issue in many of its aspects. Now the Trump administration ran for its first term and now for its second term on the platform of combating illegal immigration, strengthening border security, and removing illegal immigrants. However, deporting illegal immigrants is not that simple, because they are estimated to be, there could be as many as 27 million so-called illegal immigrants inside the United States, meaning that in order to deport them, it will require billions in terms of resources, tens of billions of dollars. And in addition to that, it could cause social unrest, and it could also cause substantial economic damage, because those immigrants, illegal immigrants, are cheap labor, and the U.S. economy and many millions of businesses benefit from their cheap services. So deporting them can actually create an economic downfall in many areas and regions of the United States.
But you also pinpointed your finger on a very important issue, which is it could bring chaos. Now, when we are speaking about Chicago, and Chicago has taken a firm stance as a sanctuary city. Now, how do you foresee the or probable clash between the federal and local authorities playing out?
Of course, this is a recipe for disaster, because now we have a potential clash between the federal level and the state level. The United States, as we all know, is a federal system of government, meaning that each and every state enjoys, in accordance with the Constitution and its own state constitution, a certain degree of autonomy regarding several files and several issues. The problem of immigration, it's actually a cross-board issue that touches upon federal authorities and federal powers as well as state authorities and state powers. So so-called sanctuary cities like Chicago or Seattle and Washington or even New York City, where they allegedly, according to Trump at least, they provide a safe haven for so-called illegal immigrants to evade deportation and whatnot. This could be an actual problem because Trump plans not only to use the National Guard and to use federal law enforcement officials in order to undertake his deportations, and he even hinted that he might use the U.S. military, which will be a precedent in U.S. history. And on the other hand, the states, if they do not cooperate, that means that the drastic measures could be taken and potential deadlocks could happen that can only be ruled through the Supreme Court.
No.
As we all know, the Supreme Court is staffed, the majority of its judges lean way more towards the right and the conservative ruling powers. Go ahead, please.
Now, from a humanitarian aspect, for immigrant communities, these raids represent more than enforcement. They create fear and uncertainty. Now, how such action affect the daily lives of those communities?
It will be a disaster. It will separate families because some of those illegal immigrants are living with their families who are legal immigrants holding green cards or even American citizens, people who acquired the American citizenship. Some of them are parents who have American children because they gave birth to their children in the United States, so their children acquired their citizenship by birth. So if this deportation campaign is carried out in a very unselective manner, in a way that does not differentiate between the different cases, it can cause substantial mayhem within society and could even potentially cause civil disturbances. We are speaking about millions of people in this regard. And even that, yes, go ahead, please.
Yes, as you're speaking here, we're speaking from the side of the ethical implications of targeting entire communities for deportation. What do you have on that?
Of course, because most of these immigrants who will be targeted, most of them are Hispanic. And they belong to especially people from Central America and Mexico. So it can be perceived as an attack on the Latino population of the United States, and Hispanic Americans form a very huge chunk of your society. But let's not forget that in this election, the majority of male Latino voters voted in favor of Trump. And actually, many of the American citizens who come from Hispanic origin, who are working class Americans, are economically negatively affected on the economic level by the influx of illegal immigrants. So they do support deportation of their own fellow Hispanic Hispanic citizens or individuals from countries like Mexico or Venezuela or Guatemala and whatnot. So it's not as clear-cut as someone might want to frame it. The left always wants to make it seem as if, oh, it's racism. No, it's not racism. It's actually an economic issue and a security issue. Some racists on the right do support these deportation policies.
Right.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes. Ms. Osman, from your own point of view, now, how could such aggressive immigration policies affect America's global standing, particularly in terms of human rights and definitely the international law?
If they decide to carry out mass deportations on this level that are indiscriminate and that cause harm to the hundreds of thousands of families, they will be a very, very abysmal example for human rights adherence. The United States already has a foreign policy that completely disregards human rights in terms of supporting genocide in Gaza and whatnot. And they also have a problem with police brutality inside and a problem with systemic racism against Black Americans and non-whites in general. So if they are going to add to that acts of mass deportation and potentially government-sponsored violence against entire communities, this will hardly be an inspiring example for other countries in the world. The world will just look down upon America. The idea of deporting illegal immigrants is a sound idea. It's not bad. However, it should be conducted in a very thorough manner. It should not be conducted indiscriminately, and it should be conducted in a humane manner that takes into account the humanitarian aspect and takes into account also the economic aspects of it, so that it wouldn't damage the economy of the United States. However, that does not seem to be what Mr. Trump is planning.
Yes, indeed. We thank you so much, Mr. Mohammed Osman, for providing us with such a valuable insight on this very decisive issue. As Operation Safeguard unfolds, it will undoubtedly reshape the conversation on immigration and the federal authority in America. Many thanks for joining us on this episode of In Focus. From the battle over TikTok to the renewed debate on immigration enforcement, today's discussions reflect the complex challenges shaping our world. We'll be back tomorrow with more expert analysis and critical insights. Until then, stay informed, and many thanks for watching.